Hi guys, beautiful souls. Hi, happy Saturday. Oh my goodness, I'm just realizing what's behind my camera is a diamond. You are a diamond. So I've been meaning to come in here and do Q&A for so long. Mandy, look what is working. I got my Facebook live stream to work. We were just in Mindful YouTube University and my freaking phone just went, so I had to update my software and update Facebook application on my phone, but it's working, I hope. Hopefully we stay connected. Let's see how this goes. But I wanted to answer a few questions for a while, a long time, and I want to show up in here more. I want to be just creating this space so that we can support each other in really breaking through and living our best lives as diamonds. How beautiful is that? Is that not gorgeous? My dear sister soul, Jeannie Berger, gave this to me for my birthday earlier this year. And I am such a little kid with it. Like I just can't stop looking at it. And when the sun hits it, it just hits like, oh, I mean, look at that, you guys. That's who you are. That's who we are. It blows my mind. We're diamonds with all these gorgeous facets, and we've been taught that we're just that. Imagine how boring this would be if we were just that. Look at all these other colors and just angles and shapes and sizes and just textures and dimensions. It's the whole of this diamond that makes it extraordinary, that makes it so compelling and so just magnetic, to look at. So I'm going to answer a few questions. I'm just going to dive straight in. I've been collecting, I have 3 questions right now. And if you are here live or you're coming in here live, feel free, or you see the recording, then put a question below and I will start coming in here when I can to make Q&A live streams. Okay, so first question is from Danielle, and she writes, how do you get yourself out of a shame spiral and on the path to confidence? How do you get yourself out of a shame spiral and on the path to confidence? Okay, I love this question. And basically what shame means, what blame means is you did something wrong, right? We want to blame somebody. You did something wrong. What shame is I am wrong. There is something wrong with me and I have to hide it so that no one sees it, because if they see it, they're going to reject me. That's what shame is, more or less. So the reason I love this work and the diamond process, and I'm so committed to it, is because there is nothing to be ashamed of. Actually, we are all the same. We are all multifaceted. We are all taught the same conditioning, the same program that we should get rid of parts of ourselves and only show the other parts of ourselves that are deemed valuable in our family or community or culture. So part of this journey is about being shameless and collecting all of who we are, collecting all parts of ourselves. So for example, I think, Danielle, what you were going through was in your performance. I think it was in your play, I think you mentioned, and you had never experienced that before. Whether it's, with a group of people you're creating with, or a family or a relationship or whatever, it's the same thing goes. There's some part of you, like the question I would ask is, what is your biggest fear that these people or somebody will judge about you? And I would get really clear about that, like crystal clear. Jason's here! Yay, I'm going to be speaking to one of your questions too after this one. We're talking about shame right now. Someone was asking, how do you get yourself out of a shame spiral and onto the path of confidence? So ultimately, once we identify what is it that I'm most afraid somebody's going to judge about me, like most afraid, that's key, because that's going to tell you the facet of yourself that you are trying to splinter off, trying to get rid of. So let's say the thing I would be terrified if people knew about me was that I was awkward. Like, oh my God, I have to be confident and I have to be like super polished and like amazing and confident. But if I'm awkward or I stumble over my words or I'm just kind of nerdy, let's say, then I'll find myself cringing, right? Or like beating myself up for revealing that part of me. So that's clear that the awkward facet or the nerdy facet of me is being like beaten into the shadow, like pushed into the shadow. And that is part of me, right? But society has taught me that I should be really poised and really confident. This is going to make me laugh because it's so silly. Really poised and really confident in order to be worthy, in order to be valuable. So the main question when shame kicks in, it's just a very clear sign, oh my God, there's some part of me that I'm ashamed of. And it's less about what they think of you, it's more about what you think of you. So what really helps me is I check in, I get really clear on what I don't want to be, what I would do anything not to be. It might be lacking success, it might be like a loser. I mean, I've tapped into every facet of myself, like the loser, the nerd, the awkward one, the ugly one, the worthless one, the, just so many different parts of the self that are just asking for love. So what I would do is clarify what that is. And then instead of resisting it, which is only makes the problem worse and makes the divide bigger, which is what insanity is. Insanity is simply being in a divided mind. It's like being divided. Well, this is part of me, but I don't like this part of me. And it's like battling against oneself. Sanity is coming into wholeness, coming into a radical embrace, coming into radical acceptance. So if I'm battling a part of me that is here, that is real, I'm only hurting myself. And it's very difficult to come out into the world as confident and present, right? So I find that the things we're most afraid of being are actually the doorways into what we are dreaming of being. So my awkwardness is actually a gift into helping me become more confident, because if I can really stop resisting it and make that facet irresistible, I know that sounds crazy, but to make that facet irresistible, desirable, wow, to me, and I embrace it as such, then I can come out into the world, and if I stumble over my words and I'm super awkward and I say the most random thing and I'm like, why did that come out of my mouth? Oh my God. Instead of beating myself up as awkward, like that's happened to me so many times, I can just embrace, wow, I'm human. I don't have to be a superhero. Like I can be human and I can still love myself. So how do we make that facet irresistible when society tells us that it's horrible and we should get rid of it and it's uncool and it's undesirable? For me, what I do is I look at not just the obvious like dark side of that facet, but I also look at the exalted side. So let's say awkwardness. What's the light side or the exalted side of awkwardness? That would be and in Danielle's case, it might have been something to do with, because she was performing at the time. I'm not sure what she was ashamed of, but it might have been that she's always like mastering her roles, and maybe the acting role she was doing was, she didn't feel maybe adequate in it or good enough. I have no idea. I'm just kind of putting something out there to try to guess what was going on. So that would be a great opportunity to embrace the part of the self that's just not very talented. And that doesn't eradicate one's incredible talent, because we can be both lacking talent and incredibly talented all at the same time, right? So I would ask myself, what is the part of me that's not talented or not able to master this role? What is the exalted part of this, side of this? And for me, I would check in and I would go, wow, well, that part of me makes me super humble and super appreciative of, it just makes me humble. It makes me, imperfect, or it gives me an opportunity to grow as an artist, right? So I would sit with that piece and go, wow, I mean, really, if you think about not being masterful in every single acting role, for example, if this were Danielle's situation, that would give me an opportunity to really sit with the humility of not being able to reach what I really want to reach as an actor, right? That talent. So then what that gives me is compassion for people who struggle with self-expression and are like, just can't even put themselves out there at all. That would give me a way of connecting to other humans. There's a huge, huge value in that. when we start to embrace the things that feel more vulnerable, we start to connect way more powerfully with others, because we're not making ourselves better or flawless or like incredibly invincible or amazing. We're actually meeting humanity at the same level, and that makes us even more lovable and even easier to connect with. So for me, let's say with the awkward piece, to make the awkward piece irresistible, I would ask for me, I think it's like super endearing to be awkward. When I meet an awkward person, it helps me relax in their presence, because I'm like, oh my God, they're normal, they're just human, and I don't have to play perfect in front of them, I can relax. So the exalted side would be endearing. Like, how cute was that he or she just stumbled over their words and they're not beating themselves up for it, they're just laughing at themselves with love. That's so endearing, right? So I would just ask, in order to get out of the shame spiral and back into self-confidence, I would be very, very revealed as far as what it is I'm trying to hide, and how can I make that facet that feels shameful to me desirable, irresistible, so that I stop resisting it, which creates the divide, and I come into that radical embrace and move in the world even more of who I am. So that it's like another facet of me is opened, awkward, awesome, or untalented, which might be humble, like the exalted side would be humble, right? So it's just reframing those facets, owning more of it, and then we become more and more able to connect and be present as we connect with other humans. Okay, I love that question. I love it. Okay, we have 2 more questions. So next question is, I would, and I can't see comments on here. Oh, I do. I see Jason on here. You said, hey, Veronica. So the next question is, I would like you to tell me how to release the anger which is towards myself. I've been holding it for more than 10 years. I recognized it, but it never goes away. Yeah, okay. So anger towards oneself is simply an indicator that there's been anger that was never expressed towards another. So it's not okay in our culture to express anger out towards others, right? So what tends to happen is that instead of healthily or responsibly expressing it, which is what emotion is, it's meant to be in motion. It's not meant to hurt other people. It's not meant to be dumped on other people. Simply feelings that come up, just like the weather, that are meant to be expressed. But the human mind tends to make it personal and like personalizes it, right? And makes it all about us, which creates another divide. So it's really about recognizing self-anger, or anger towards the self is because it wasn't going outward like it was meant to. It wasn't being expressed. So then it starts to go in the opposite direction towards oneself, and it becomes internalized. That's what leads to depression, because we've been sitting on anger too many times, and so it just makes one fall flat. Anger is a very vertical emotion. It's a very healthy emotion. It often says there's an injustice. It often says boundaries need to be set. It often says that's not okay with me. But because we've been taught to fear anger, it just builds and builds and becomes like way more intense than it needs to be. So the way I would suggest moving through that anger is to give it right expression outward. I was just at the Leonard Jacobson retreat and was blown away by his facilitations when it came to anger. I mean, seeing people transform their lives by expressing the anger, powerful. And most addiction is a result of repressed anger, because we're swallowing it, thinking that it's bad to express anger, and it's just an attempt to kind of fill that void and fill that, like, numb that feeling. So it's really about coming into masterful expression of the anger, really coming into right expression of the anger. What does that look like? So it looks like the medicinal dialogue can help for sure from the Diamond Process book, or just doing like an anger dance, or punching a pillow, or expressing and letting that fierceness, again, it's a facet, it's the anger facet, which is powerful, it's strong, it's clear, it's roar, it's like a roar. It's just as worthy as sadness or joy or fear. It's part of the primary colors of our emotions. So how do you responsibly and healthily express emotion outward so that it's not internalized, which is what creates a lot of disease and lack of health? Well, it's just about First of all, knowing the anger is not you, which is where most of us humans make the mistake. We think I'm an angry person. There's something wrong with me. No, it's just anger coming up. It's a real feeling that's just like a storm. It's coming up. Rather than capping it, it's letting it come up and out. And life, if anger is repressed inside of us, life will give us countless opportunities to express it. Have you ever noticed that? Like someone will trigger the crap out of you in the most insignificant moment, and you're like, whoa, that was so much. I'm so angry. I don't know why. So it's just a signal saying life is so loving that it's giving a trigger so that that anger can finally just come out of that pocket that we're holding it in inside and just blah, come out. Not on another person, but responsibly in our own sacred, private space, or in session with a coach, or at a Leonard Jacobson retreat, or a Diamond Process retreat, or anything, someone you feel safe with. But I find doing this alone is super powerful. So it's letting that anger express up and out. And I would even, every time anger comes up, I would let it roar, let it rip, let it express, and recognize, number one, it's not you. Number two, it has the right to express. And number three, let that anger express in the way that it wants to. Anger is a very unique color. This is the last thing I'll say about anger. It's a very unique color. It's a very unique shade. It is not logical. It is not necessarily sane. It is it's outrageous. It wants to destroy at a mere, like, someone doesn't say hi to you in a restaurant. It's like, rah, like roar. It comes up with like this rah, right? It's not logical. It's just not. So can I let that part of me just be outrageous? Not on another person. I want to be really clear about that. But just in my own sacred space, can I let that emotion up and out? For a while, I would go on hikes and like roar like a tiger and just like let myself feel that feeling, because it was so freeing to let myself, like I was saying with the diamond, let that facet of me, that anger, that like rage or that fierceness come out without being ashamed of it. It's a very important dimension of us. Now, as I am in healthier relationship with anger, I notice my boundaries are very clear. And so I no longer have to be a bitch to people or shut down in order to put a boundary up. I'm just very clear on my boundaries. I trust myself with my boundaries. So now if somebody tries to cross those boundaries, anger now is settled within me. So it may come out a bit fierce, but it's not screaming at somebody. It's just, that's not okay with me. It's just very clear. Thank you, but no thank you. It's just... So I just suggest to allow this beautiful emotion to make friends with anger, to let it express. And if any judgments are placed on the anger, like what's wrong with me? I must be crazy. Why am I thinking these things? Why am I screaming like this? Why am I feeling this way? To recognize that's just a tactic of the ego, repressing the anger, which creates disharmony in oneself, and simply release the judgments and let that be expressed in a healthy way. A really good way is give yourself permission in your car to just like roar it out, and don't take my word for it. Just notice afterwards in privacy when you really let it express, give it its full expression outward, then stop and pause and check in with your body and notice how you feel after. Okay, I hope that helps. And then I have a third question here. Yes, this video is private just for us, just for the Diamond Tribe. And in the future, I might post, I don't know, we'll see. I might post these to YouTube, but they won't see you or your questions. So I just won't reference anybody's names. If that's okay for you, then I may post this because I think it's valuable. Okay. It feels like part of me is broken, deeply hurt, betrayed, and shamed, bullied, abused. That hurt part of me is the most difficult thing for me to deal with and overcome. It must be based in... Let me catch it on here. I can't read the full comment here, and I really appreciate what you're sharing. Let me just get your full comment here because it doesn't let me read the whole thing on my phone. Okay. It must be based in self-judgment and making what others think as far more important than what I think and believe about me. It is amazing how I even cannot seem to switch off caring about what others think. Expressing anger safely hasn't broken the pattern. I feel way more empowered now, which is excellent, yet this trigger is my Achilles heel. I just can't seem to heal it so far. Yeah, so I really appreciate this because there's so many people out there who have been bullied, and it's this constant fear that comes up of like, how will, people, it must be based in part of, right, feeling broken, like something must be wrong with me if I've been bullied, okay? The challenge with that, and this is part of the question I was going to answer from your, previous post, is that what happens is there's this divide inside that says that there's something wrong with me, which we all have. It's like the core of humanity's belief system is I'm not enough or I'm not good enough. But how do you create community, which was a big part of your previous question, when you feel inadequate because there's a part of you that you just has been bullied in the past. You feel shamed, bullied, abused, and feeling like what others think is far more important than what you think. So this is the key. When you go out, what's happening right now, part of your previous question about building connection with others, and this is so powerful what you're doing right now because you're sharing, right? You're sharing, so you're shining the light on it, and many leaders wouldn't do that because they want to play perfect, and then they actually are suffering inside and creating this image on the outside that doesn't match the truth, like, their whole reality. So it's really, really beautiful that you're sharing this, number one. So I would love for you to just own that and take that in, that you're not willing to be inauthentic. You're not willing to portray a false image of yourself. You're only willing to be free, which is so powerful and so beautiful. So what I want to address as far as your previous question is, what happens is when you go out into a social environment, oftentimes the social anxiety will come up because we want to get something from other people. I yearn for connection. I yearn for community. I'm here to get that. So there's something lacking. Like if you're out to go get something, then it's basically assuming that you have something lacking, that you don't have the connections, you don't have the community. So there's kind of a desire to get that out in the world. So oftentimes we are unable to have the beautiful friendships and community that we want if we don't think we deserve it or we're trying to get it. I know this seems counterintuitive, but this goes for relationships, this goes for money, this goes for anything. When we think we have to go out there and get it and we wish for it, we're actually separating ourselves from it. And this thought came to me yesterday when I was sitting in yoga. And when I go to yoga, I don't go to make friends. I go because I sincerely want to drop into my body and connect with myself. And I want to honor my body. And I noticed the teacher stopped in the middle of the class and started talking to me, really friendly, and she was wanting to connect and really curious about my mala beads, like in the middle of class. And I was thinking, this random thought came in of, I'm not seeking connection right now, but connection is coming to me because I'm so deeply connected to myself right now. And that's the energetics of things. Whatever it is that we want, it's really important that we create that inside, we connect to that inside of ourselves. So I love your awareness, seeing other people's opinions of you as more important or more valid somehow than your own. So my question to you is, how can you even, it's almost like dropping the notion of creating community altogether and instead trading it out for creating amazing connection with yourself. Coming into connection with the real beings, like the trees and the mountains and the land and the ocean, which I know you already do. And from that place, just notice what starts to magnetize to you. So rather than going to a social event to make friends, although I do feel that's helpful to go out there, put yourself out and push your edges and go out there and meet new people, what happens when you go there just for you? Just to take yourself on a date, so to speak, and be like, I want this for me because I want to learn about this thing. So I'm going to go to this workshop. I want this for me. That's all, I choose. I choose to do what lights me up. And you'll notice people start to come to you. It's a really, really interesting thing. But I noticed the whole bullying thing in that story, it's of course creates this huge desire to connect with other people, because there's such a pain of having such harsh connections with other people. What I notice is the deepest need inside is to have that connection with oneself. And as a little kid, when the bullying was taking place, the deepest need was actually for you to feel that connection to yourself. But you were way too young to even conceptualize that, nonetheless experience that, right? No one teaches us that. So now it's like you're being given the opportunity to reconnect, do what lights you up. And anytime that story comes in, and it does, the story will come in saying, other people don't like me, they don't connect with me, this isn't the connection I need something way better than this, where am I going to really meet and connect with people, this isn't working for me. Notice that story, and it's just a distraction from you settling into the moment and connecting with you. It's just a story. So my last question to you is, what are you yearning to experience? Whether it's yoga or like, where do you want to go? What do you want to experience? And continue following that and focus on connecting with yourself and just praising yourself and loving yourself up and just being present in the room, rather than looking around like wanting to get friendships or wanting to get anything. And you may notice it's very subtle, right? But it's a shift. It's an energetic shift that may shift things for you. I sense something's already shifted by you sharing, because you're a powerful being, you're a powerful leader, and you just shared this. And that in and of itself, you're no longer hiding something. It's open. The light has struck it. There's love there now. So that is what naturally attracts people to you, when you radically embrace the whole of who you are. So thank you so much. Your question it prompted me to turn this camera on and make this happen now, because it's just very, very important for all of us, I think. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So that's it, you guys. Those are the 3 questions. I really appreciate the question on bullying that I just answered, the question on shame, and the question on anger. Super, super potent and super powerful. If you guys have any questions, feel free to type them in here. Or on the recording if you watch this later, and I plan on coming in here more often. I choose, and I initially created this space so that we have a very private, safe container to express and reveal what needs to be revealed, so that we can come into deeper presence, deeper connection to the moment, deeper connection to ourselves. And if I ever do share any of this on YouTube, none of you show up, like none of your names or faces or any of that show up. So I'll just be mindful about not using anyone's name during this, okay? During our Q&A. So thank you guys so much for being here. I'm sending you so much love. I really, really appreciate you. And just like this gorgeous diamond, and we are all diamonds, 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 shining together. And as each one of us rises, we all rise with you.